Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson, Chapter 38, Religion. Beelzebub continued further. Now I shall explain to you also a little about that obstruction, which serves as one of the chief causes for the gradual dilution of the psyche of these unfortunate favorites of yours, and namely concerning their peculiar havat vernoni, which they always have, the totality of the functioning and the effect of which in the common presences of the beings they themselves call religiousness. Such an, in the objective sense, indeed arch-maleficent factor for the gradual automatic dwindling of their psyche arose there on this ill-starred planet. Also, since various consequences of the properties of always the same, for them, accursed organ kundabuffer, began to be crystallized in them, and changing its outer form, began to be transmitted from generation to generation. And so, when on the one hand, thanks to these crystallizations, there began to be acquired in the common presences of certain terrestrial three-brained beings, the first germs of what are called Hasnamussian properties, in consequence of which such beings began, as is proper to them for their egoistic aims, to invent, for the confusion of surrounding beings similar to themselves, various fictions, among which were also every kind of fantastic, what are called religious teachings. And when, on the other hand, other of your favorites began to have faith in these fantastic religious teachings, and gradually lost their sane mentation, thanks to these same crystallizations, then from that time on, there began to arise in the process of the ordinary existence of these strange three-brained beings a large number of havat vernoni, or religions, having nothing in common with each other. Although all these many varied havat vernoni, or religions of theirs, have decidedly nothing in common with each other, yet nevertheless all are built up on the religious teachings, which in their turn are built up exclusively on that, in the objective sense, maleficent idea which they themselves call good and evil, and which idea, strictly speaking, was the chief factor for the gradual dilution of their general psyche, and which still quite recently served as the cause of great events among the blissful higher being bodies, or as they are called there, souls, who dwell on that holy planet in the direction of which we are at the present moment falling. The history of all that which recently happened on this holy planet Purgatory ought, in my opinion, to be told you without fail. First of all, because these events have a common cosmic character and are connected with the general individuality of every relatively separately formed, responsible individual. And secondly, because certain members of your genealogical tree involuntarily served as the cause of the arising of these events. But I shall relate about it only at the end of my present tale, as I have a very worthy reason for this concerning the development of your being mentation. About this worthy reason, and also about what considerations I have concerning such an intention of mine, I shall most likely explain to you in its proper time. Meanwhile, know that there, among these terrestrial three-brained beings who please you, there existed and exists a great quantity of all kinds of religious doctrines, on which these numerous religions of theirs are just built up, and that they usually arise in the following way. I already told you that when it became clear that, thanks to the unforeseeingness of certain most high, sacred, cosmic individuals, the results of the consequences of the organ kundabuffer, invented and later removed by these sacred individuals, began to become crystallized in the common presences of these unfortunate three-brained beings, thanks to which it became almost impossible for them correctly to become perfected to the being which three-brained beings ought to have. Then our abundantly loving common Father condescended to actualize sometimes in the common presences of certain of them, wherever they may arise, the germ of a sacred individual, so that these latter, being completely formed up to responsible age and acquiring reason in the conditions which had already become fixed in the general process of the existence of the three-brained beings of this planet, should become aware of reality and indicate to the surrounding beings similar to themselves how they ought, with the reason present in them, to guide the process of the functioning of their separate spiritualized parts, in order in this way to decrystallize the already crystallized consequences of the properties of the organ Kundabuffer, and also to succeed in destroying in themselves the predisposition to new crystallizations. And so, my boy, after the sacred Rascoarno proceeds to these terrestrial three-brained beings, or as they themselves express it, when they die, in the presences of whom are actualized the germs of sacred individuals, their contemporaries usually, in order to remember and also in order to transmit to the beings of subsequent generations all that these sacred individuals had indicated and explained according to their attainments of responsible age, collect it all into one whole. And all this collected into one whole usually just serves as the beginning of all kinds of religious teachings there. The strangeness of the psyche of your favorites in respect of the religious teachings which arise in this way among them manifests itself in this, that they already from the very beginning understand literally all that has been said and explained by these genuine sacred individuals actualized from above, and they never take into account in which environment and for which case this or that was said and explained. And further, already during the transmission from generation to generation of these religious teachings, the sense of which had already from the very beginning been distorted, they begin to adopt in regard to them the following two factors, which had already become fixed in the general existence of these strange three-brained beings. The first of these consists in this, that those beings who in the given period of the flow of time belong to the caste called the ruling class, immediately hook on to these religious teachings just that, for them, most maleficent question which exists on this ill-starred planet under the name of religion for the state, or the state for religion. And corresponding to this, they gradually begin with every kind of artfulness to juggle with the previously fixed facts for the justification of their own egoistic aims. And the second consists in this, that certain ordinary beings there, owing to the fault of their producers, acquired in their common presences during their arising as well as during their formation into responsible beings, the inherency of what is called psychopathy or parasitism, in consequence of which they do not have and cannot have in themselves any data at all for the manifestations of any being duty, whatever it might be, and become, as it were, authorities for all the trifling details of this new religious teaching which have already arisen in the mentioned way, and begin, as it is said, to peck like crows at a jackal's carcass, that totality already pecked from the very beginning without this, of what had been spoken and indicated by the genuine sacred individuals intentionally actualized from above. Speaking briefly, the result of the mentioned two fac